Hello, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. So, after our fantastic 3-0 victory over Sheffield United at Bramall Lane, we're back at home against the side who, if all the ducks are in order, could be top of the Premier League come Sunday evening. That side is Aston Villa, a side who have been fantastic in Europe and also, of course, fantastic in the league. So, what do the Villa fans make of Unai Emery's charges this season? Well, no doubt they're very, very happy. Are they dreaming of further successes? Well, let's find out. It is a pleasure to welcome on to the show again from the Villa Park podcast, Martin Leonard. Welcome back to Up the Cherries in all departments. Martin, how are you doing?
I'm all good, Craig. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem at all. A pleasure as always. And I'll tell you what, let's start off with Europe. And of course, on Thursday you were playing. This is why it's out a little bit later.
Mm.
And of course, a fantastic win over Legia Warsaw. Um, you've still got a little bit to do in Europe, but you're pretty much there, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's more or less going to be guaranteed. Our next game is against Mostar, who, in fairness, proved to be quite a difficult game to be against because they really defended well. And I said it before, I put out a tweet on it that it wasn't pretty from Villa, and I gave all credit to Mostar. They defended really well. They were on the attack a good few times, they were catching us on the counter. I thought their game plan was really well executed, but it's just that final third in the pitch where it just didn't work out for them. And luckily for us, we got like a late minute winner. So but say like if that was 2 or 3 seasons ago, you're talking about Aston Villa probably losing them games 4 or 5-0, and we just don't get that luck. Where now we're getting that bit of luck in games where we're getting late minute winners or we're getting calls for us now. So it's a bit unusual for a Villa fan. Like some weeks I've even said, is this what it feels like to be a big six club? You get away with certain things.
Yeah, well, it's been long overdue, and I remember Aston Villa years ago when I was growing up. Were one of the big sides that were always, punching there at the top of the table.
Mm.
I think you finished second one season, didn't you? I'm
The very
thinking,
first season, the very
yeah,
first
in
season
the
of the
Premier
Premier
League.
League.
Yeah, so it's good to see you back up there. And let's go on to the Premier League because if you are to beat us and
Mm.
results go in your favour, which it's going to be a big ask for everything to go in your favour, you could be top of the table
Mm.
end of play on Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, Firstly, how exciting is that? Considering we were speaking off air about those 3 seasons in the Championship, and I didn't realise it was 3 years, um, but it was a struggle to get out of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really is a big struggle to get out of that championship just before I get onto the Premier League. Like with certain clubs, you're either out of it in your first season, coming
Yeah,
back, or you're stuck there for years. Like you've seen many clubs being stuck there for years. Sunderland have now been down there for a while. Wigan haven't even come back up. They've kept going down the pecking order.
hmm
Portsmouth, another club. Blackburn as well. Ever since they've gone down, they haven't been back up. Leeds being probably the biggest fall off as a club. As soon as they've gone down, they've struggled to come back up, and now Millie are back down again. Forest is another club who got
yeah,
relegated and took years to come back. There's only certain clubs that are like the yo-yo clubs, your Norwich, your Fulham, your Burnleys, and now supposedly your Sheffield United is the way that it's looking at. Like, but those 3 seasons of championships, we nearly went into administration, which was
mhm,
a bad time for the club. With Tony Exia, supposedly there was something to do with his finances, which wasn't great. And luckily, Wes Edens and narrative coming into the fold of Aston Villa saving our club and taking us from, you know, like just from mid-table of the championship to now potentially going into the top of the league. And don't get me wrong, I really am excited by the prospect of potentially going top of the league this weekend if
mhm.
certain results go our way. But at the same time, I really do want to take it game by game. I'm a bit of a pessimistic like that. Like some
Yeah.
lads are really excited. They're like, yeah, top of the league, and I'm kind of going, lads, please, game by game, because there's been so many times where Liverpool and Arsenal, who were top of the league at Christmas,
Yeah.
and Man City will still win the league because their run in for Man City it does not stop. It's W. It just keeps going. But don't get me wrong, I am very excited just how the year has gone. Like top four with literally only like 2 points being off the top of the table. And considering we've had our injuries with Mings, Wendia, Moreno, Ramsey, four key players, but now obviously with Moreno and Ramsey back, which is a great boost for us, to have them missing and for us to say that we're going to be top four. If someone had told me that at the start of the year, you're going to be top four and having four key players missing, I would tell you you're being silly and I'd laugh at your face. And now I'm like, wow. And all the credit to me personally just goes down to Unai Emery.
Let's talk about that man because, of course, he is one of the three Basque managers in the Premier League. Of course, Arteta is the other one. We've got one. You've got one. And then that transition from Steven Gerrard, because let's be honest, it now looks like Steven Gerrard did an absolutely terrible job at Aston Villa.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how Unai Emery has completely changed things and getting you punching towards the top of the table. Let's be honest, last season, the run you went on to get into those places for Europe, those spots for Europe, was incredible, really.
Sorry, just repeat that last bit. Forgive me, I'm partially deaf. So,
No, that's fine. So to be honest, it was incredible, how he went on that run to actually get you into those European places. What did you make of it last season?
when Gerrard was initially hired, or sorry, when Dean Smith was initially sacked,
Hmm.
first name I did say was Steven Gerrard because he
Yeah,
had done a great job with Rangers. Like, we got them far in the Europa League, and we won the league. And I think Perslow being his big mate, the two connections from Liverpool when they were with
yeah,
each other, you know, sold the project to our owner, saying, "Look, young up and coming manager. Look what he's done in Europe. He's won a league title in Scotland. Dethroning Celtic, which was a big thing now. But don't get me wrong, it was still Rangers FC. They should be winning titles. But
yeah,
so the owner bought into that, gave Perslow, the reign of doing that. And at the start, don't get me wrong, the honeymoon period, which every manager goes through, we thought this was a great hire. This could now be a chance for us to push. And then he went on a bit of a drought of poor performances, which does happen after honeymoon period, but then it just continued and it continued and it continued. And Rich says it very well in our podcast. Like, he says, we weren't seeing what he's doing in training going into a match because we were asking questions. What's he doing in training? Because we're not seeing it in a game where then he was let go after Fulham because he got the sack before he went on the team bus, which was
yeah,
incredible. I mean, imagine sitting there and all them boys knowing he was like, "Yeah, you're out the door, mate. You're not our manager anymore. Get out here, right? Right?" To now, like, and funny enough, I didn't put Emery on my list of managers that I wanted.
mm,
I had said Pochettino and Potter because at the time, Potter, who is from Solihull, he's an Aston Villa fan, you
yeah,
probably would have thought he would probably bite the hand off to get the Villa job because it's closer to home. He supports the club, which sort of like a Dean Smith feel, but he plays better
yeah,
football than Dean Smith. And then I also said Pochettino. He wasn't attached to a club,
mhm,
so I felt the project of money being invested, some European football, there's young players. I thought that would have attracted him. Suppose we went for him, but he said no. It's no problem. Like if he says no, he says no. It's all you can
yeah,
do and ask. Then when it was announced that we got Emery and it only cost us 5 million to pay out his clause, and for him to take us from 17th to 7th in a short space of time, and don't get me wrong,
yeah,
he only brought in one player, a
mhm,
left back, in Alex Moreno, and he chopped loads in January. And I'm going, oh my Jesus, what happens if some of these players get injured? And like, the squad depth wasn't there, but luckily, the run we went on, it was just, it got to the point where I was expecting Aston Villa to now win games. Like I was looking forward to watching Villa. It was a bright spark now in my life to finally watch Aston Villa and brag about it. Where for years my mates were like, "Haha, Villa are dirt," you know, you know what I mean. So like, and then as it's going on, and I was just in awe. And then this season, I felt we would have kicked on, but to kick on in the heights again of what he's done, it just feels like Unai Emery is overachieving, and so is the club. But when you watch the football that we play, you say, "No, this is where Aston Villa should be." Look at the football they play, and just it's just phenomenal. Like sometimes I'm left speechless now when watching Aston Villa because it was the exact same players Gerrard had and nearly Dean Smith, just with a few additions here and there.
Yeah.
And it's completely elevated to beyond what Aston Villa fans would have thought.
Well, I interviewed, and this is going back to the start of the season. I interviewed a chap called Mikel Xari, and
Okay.
he is the former Basque national team manager. And he's worked with the likes of Lopetegui, Arteta, of course, Andoni Iraola, and Unai Emery. And one of the styles that he was saying was that the Basque managers press from the front. It's all about controlling possession, keeping the game flowing. And do you feel that Unai Emery has shown that style of the likes of Arteta, of maybe Iriola was trying to show? Of course, he has gone a little
Hmm.
bit more direct, but do you feel that that's what he's really shown, or do you feel that he's actually evolved that game?
Funny enough, I always say I don't think Unai Emery has a particular playing style
Mm,
because his style, in my opinion, that I feel, he contradicts what the other team does.
yeah,
Like he's very good at pointing out, right, this is what Tottenham do, and this is what we're gonna do to counteract what they do. And for a manager to be able to do that and to get our players to adapt to different situations in each game, it's incredible. But now at home, he does have a particular playing style. We play a high line. We like to keep the ball,
yeah.
keep possession, keep it flowing, like you just said with the Basque managers. And that's it. I feel he's shown that at home. But still, at the same time, at home, he'll go, right, if they do this, this is what you're doing. So our players are well now capable to adapt into different situations where they weren't before under the likes of Gerrard and Smith.
Mhm.
And it just kind of goes to show, and sometimes a little bit of detail in the manager can make such a difference to your players and to what position that puts you in the table. And it's like I said, it's just absolutely incredible. And now, like, sitting in the Champions League spot, top four, fifth now potentially is a Champions League spot still, depending on the new format next season.
Yeah.
But for me to finally look at something that Unai does, I'm really trying to learn what he does in training and the football game because he's kind of teaching the fans as well what he's doing against certain clubs and what he wants to implement into the team. And it's just so exciting. Like every time we go to Villa Park, it's like, what's Emery got today? What's Emery got today? It's not like, oh, can Watkins get this? Can Douglas Luiz this? It's what has Emery got today?
Are you concerned though about coming up against Bournemouth because, of
Hmm.
course, Andoni Iraola is a man that knows the Basque style. He
Yes.
probably knows a lot more about Unai Emery than myself, um, because I believe that they do know each other and they're quite good friends as well. Do you feel that this could be potentially a banana skin, considering we are in decent form and the manager knows from the
Mm.
same area, being trained by the same coach as Emery?
Yeah, I would agree with you. Bournemouth is probably one that is a potential banana skin like last season. That kind of showed to be the case as well, obviously, because I just think the only game we've won at Bournemouth was the year we got relegated when Rudy just scored a big thumping header.
Yes,
And
yeah.
after that, we just haven't won at Bournemouth away. I don't think so, because Bournemouth's a very hostile ground. I feel sometimes to go to as for Aston Villa because it's so close, condensed to the pitch. The fans are right in your face. It's sort of like Selhurst. in a way
Yeah,
because you're so close to the football pitch. And don't get me wrong, it's only 10,000 fans, but that 10,000 fans must feel like 50 and 60 because they're so close with the noise.
yeah.
But I do agree. I do think this is probably a potential banana skin for Villa because obviously the manager knows Unai Emery. But if you flip the coin,
Mhm.
Unai Emery also knows him.
Yes, very true.
So therefore, the two would try to contradict with each other. But I would feel if that's going to be the case, I would feel Villa would tip it because of our quality of players compared to yours, and that's just no disrespect. It's just that little bit of a level difference, says all.
Well, one man that you do have, and we was linked with it. To be honest, when this first come out last
Yeah.
season, last season in the summer, we thought, nah, this isn't going to happen, and so it showed. And then it sounded like the player kind of reignited the interest, but it was too late. We'd already made the signings that we had, and that is Zaniolo, Nicolò Zaniolo. Um, Firstly, how good has he been for Aston Villa?
Not great, if I'm being honest. I think I've been a bit underwhelmed. Like, don't get me wrong. At the start, he was trying. He was bulldozing people. He had that little bit of a bite in the midfield, which I
Yeah.
felt sometimes a Villa player was missing. But now it's gotten to the point like he's still trying. Like
Mhm.
like you should be starting to produce a little bit of numbers from now. And look, there's still plenty of time. You can still
Yeah.
go ahead and prove me wrong. But at the same time, I kind of feel like he's been a bit underwhelming. And don't get me wrong, at the loan move, there's no
Mhm.
obligation to buy. It's only
Yeah.
an option. So he could still prove me wrong as the season goes on, but in the same sense, I've been a little bit underwhelmed by him. I can see where some fans are coming from that give him a bit of time. And in fairness, I'm willing to because I can see what he wants to do, and sometimes it just hasn't worked off. He's been unlucky with top class saves from keepers. I mean, some of the goals he probably would have scored would have been crackers, but he's hit the post, he's hit the crossbar, like keepers just saving worldies. And you're just kind of going, when is this lad going to catch a break? It's just really
Yes.
bad in him. But at the same time, I've been fairly underwhelmed, very underwhelmed.
We will also discuss in off air about Zaniolo and, of course, the situation in Italy
Mm.
and Tonali, of course, being suspended for Newcastle. And I know from what you've said, Zaniolo, it hasn't happened to him. But do tell us a little bit more about that situation because it's all kind of gone under the radar. Find they suspended Tonali, but of course we didn't really hear much about what happened with Zaniolo.
Yeah, what happened there was obviously they put the two names together
Mhm.
simply because Zaniolo and Tonali are very good mates outside
Yeah,
of football. They still keep in touch. Everything else, even though Zaniolo was in Birmingham, Tonali in Newcastle, but they still kept in touch when he was in Italy and Turkey, vice versa.
yeah,
So I think then another name had to come, and because they're so close to each other, the question was asked from the investigation team to Zaniolo: Did you have anything involved? Because he's your best mate, so therefore we have reason to believe you might be involved. But
hmm,
he had openly said, "No, I had absolutely nothing to do with it," and he brought his team of solicitors, and they said, "Look, here's the evidence. There's nothing to tie him down to these allegations of gambling and match fixing." And they said, right, fair enough. After a while, not straight away, of course, but after a while, they had said, right, you're clear of all potential charges that may be coming against you. So you're in the clear, you're innocent, no problems at all. Simple stuff. Thought we'd ask. Clearly not enough. Thank you. Then they move on to Tonali, and obviously
hmm.
he's now been suspended for the rest of the season. So it's a bit harsh on Tonali in the sense of like his best mate probably left him to dry
Yeah,
somehow. I don't
yeah,
know if he did or not, but
yeah.
in the same sense, though, if you're going to do something like that, you're going to get a punishment.
And I was looking at the goal scoring charts as well. Ollie Watkins, what an outstanding player he is turning out to be. Um,
Mm,
12 goals, is it, so far this season?
I think so. Yes, in all competitions, yes.
Yeah. But how do Bournemouth stop him? Because he is on fire at the moment.
Yeah.
How do we
Yeah.
stop him?
I don't know, but I think the only person who can stop Ollie Watkins is Ollie Watkins, because sometimes he gets in his own head a little bit. He
Yeah.
might miss a chance that he knows he should have scored, and it stays in his head for a long period of time. He tends to go quiet, and he might make another mistake, and that's it, and it just gets to his head again and again and again. Where if he's on form, he's very hard to stop. Like he's no. If you want to get in the battle with Ollie Watkins, he's no problem doing that. He'll take you on the back. He'll hold you off and bring other people into play. And if you want to leave him, let him run in behind, try to catch him offside. Good luck with that, because he's got pace to burn. And I think the only thing sometimes as well that lets Ollie Watkins down, he misses a lot of chances. Now,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, he will score a few, but he still misses a lot. But for me personally, I would rather a striker miss chances
Hmm.
and not be there for chances. Because if you have a striker who's doing all the work and then they're not there in the box for a chance that may potentially come to them, you'd be going, "Where's Watkins? There's no point doing all this hard work if you're not going to be there." And that's why I always defend Ollie Watkins, because he does the hard work, he gets the chances, he gets the goals. It's ultimately been proven. And for, if we got rid of him, it's a case of, well, who do we bring in to replace him, because he's so pivotal to how we play. And I just think that a lot of fans say, "Oh, I hate him," because it's a very split opinion with Ollie
Yeah.
Watkins, because it's literally 50-50. It's like one side will say, "I love Ollie, the hard work he does. Yeah, he might miss a lot of chances, but he gets the goals. If we get rid of him, who do we get?" Where the other half is like, "I'll get rid of him. Way too many chances missed. We need someone that's, gonna bag all the chances." Because, and I always bring this up. Well, if you think about it, there's only two people in the Premier League that scored more goal contributions than Ollie Watkins, and that's Salah and Haaland.
Yeah.
They're the cream of the crops. And if you just take them out, Ollie Watkins is number one. So therefore, we have a top tier Premier League striker. There's not much more we can ask for.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely the man to watch. But there is one thing I would say about the Villa side as well is that Unai Emery doesn't chop and change as much as sometimes it seems. Like Matty Cash, fantastic defender. A player that I really, really rate. Yuri Tillemans as well, of
Mm.
course, signed from Leicester. Again, an excellent acquisition. Um, how important do you think it is keeping that core of that squad playing every game, and also with Villa looking like you're going to progress in Europe? I'm sure you will do, but
Mm.
looking like that and fighting on so many fronts, do you feel that maybe it is going to catch up with some players?
I don't think so, no, because now when I look at our squad depth, I feel
Mm.
it's well equipped. Now, it could
Yeah,
still do with maybe two or three more, of course, but
yeah,
at the same time, I feel like it's well equipped because we've seen Carlos come in to Premier League games.
mhm,
We see Longley playing all the Conference League games, which gives Pau Torres a bit of a rest, which has been great. Diaby hasn't started all the Conference League games. Watkins hasn't.
mhm,
Digna hasn't. Cash hasn't. You know, I feel like in the conference games in the group stage,
yeah,
he's rested a few here and there just to kind of cope with what's going on in the Premier League, and then they'll come back to the Premier League well equipped and well rested.
mhm,
Now, later on in the season, will that catch up? Potentially, because if you're going into the latter stages of the Conference League, your team needs to get stronger and a bit stronger and a bit stronger. But still, at the same time, I feel like the squad is well equipped, because it's better equipped than when West Ham won it. Because you've
yeah,
seen that they just gave up on the Premier League and decided to focus on the Conference League. And obviously, it paid off for them, but it nearly cost Moyes his job at one point.
well,
So,
yeah, exactly.
therefore, I feel like the squad's well equipped in January. There's talks of them bringing in two or three just to give a little bit more depth, which would be fantastic. And then whatever he does in the summer after that, we can only wait and see. But I feel like the squad is well equipped for the season ahead.
Yeah, to be honest, I've got to agree with you because you see these teams, where they do go into Europe, all of a sudden and by surprise sometimes, and they fall off the following season and it all falls
Yeah.
apart. And Villa have improved despite playing as many games as you have done,
Mm,
and it's a full credit to Unai Emery. Um, if here's another one. Here's another one. If I was to say that you would finish outside the European places in the Premier League, though,
yeah.
but you'd win the Conference League, would you take that, or would you want to finish as high in the Premier League? Maybe not win it, but high in the Premier League, but then miss out on the silverware. Which one would you go for?
Good question. Um, Me personally, I would take silverware.
Mhm.
I just think it's been so long
Yeah,
since Aston Villa has won a piece of silverware since 1996, the year I was born. So I've not seen
yeah,
Aston Villa lift a major piece of silverware, and I'm not counting the playoff trophy here, like because that's
yeah,
just third fiddle to me. So
yeah,
like, I would rather say potentially Villa finish sixth and we win the Conference League. I call that massive success. Great step from the previous season. Now let's build on that. We're in the Europa League, and sixth place will be Europa League. So regardless, you're in the Europa League, and it would just be fantastic for the club. And then you build on that rather than. Don't get me wrong, I would take a Champions League spot as well if that was to come to life. But in the same sense, that's probably a step too high because I'm a football coach for a club called Park Villa
yeah,
over here in Navan, and I'm always like baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, because then you see progression where if you overachieve and overstep, people will then suddenly begin to expect a bit higher than what you've achieved, and sometimes that could be a victim of your own success is the
yeah,
saying. So therefore, if Emery don't get, if he achieved the Champions League spot, Villa fans would then go right Champions League next year, win an FA Cup. It gets a bit
yes,
bigger and bigger and bigger. Where do it in baby steps. If you get six in the Conference League spot, we can then go right. Now let's challenge for Champions League place via win the Europa League or get it being in the Premier League. And that would be much better in my opinion because
mhm,
then we'll see the progression. Better players will come in as that goes on. Where you overachieve it, you're trying then to reach for the stars and getting some players because they might go no. Like if you look at Newcastle, they finished fourth in the
yeah,
league last season, and they went they got Tonali, pretty much spent the budget,
mhm,
and they're trying to get other players. Like no, no, no. So the squad hasn't really changed as such.
yeah,
Where with Villa, we've made smart signings. We've made signings that have suited positions in certain areas, and therefore we've been well equipped. Like the baby steps. Like we haven't gone and got a super mega star that we brought into Aston Villa, or we haven't gone and got like a top out and out goal scorer or like a maestro midfielder or anything like that. We've made smart signings, and that's like I said again, that's all credit to Unai Emery. But me personally, I will take a bit of silverware this season, whether it's the Conference League, FA Cup. It's something I want.
to be honest, that does make a lot of sense. And believe it or not, do you know what? This is crazy when I see it. There's a lot of Newcastle fans that are absolutely delighted with what Sir Eddie is doing. But there's also those, and there's that small little segment that go in, well, we're not actually doing as well as we did last season. And we're going to go
Mm,
out the Champions League. And
yeah.
oh, is he taking us as far as? And yeah, I can see how sometimes you
Yeah,
can
the
make a
point
rod
of
for your own back.
overachievement, it's
Yeah.
fallen back now on Newcastle because they finished in the position where it wasn't really expected because the year before I think they just finished about just in the bottom half, didn't they?
Yes, yeah,
Because after the January transfer and all that, and they built themselves up, and then the talk was trying to get them into the top half, and then all of a sudden he got Champions League football. Now fans and owners are expecting this to be on a regular basis. Like this is
yeah,
why are we like are they sixth or seventh in the league? I'm not too sure.
yeah. I think it's seventh, if I'm right in thinking. I might be
Yeah.
wrong on that. Might be wrong.
Now, admittedly, they've had their injury issues. They've loads missing, but in the same sense, ever since they beat us 5-1, we've kind of gone nearly strength for strength, where
Hmm.
they've been a bit underwhelming apart from their 8-0 away win. But other than that, I've not seen much.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Just coming on to Bournemouth, and of course, I'd like to bring it back to the Basque managers.
Yeah.
Iraola, and a lot of people have said, "Oh, I don't like Iraola." I really do like him as a man, but one thing that I was really concerned about was his style and
Okay.
how we might not have the players to adapt to his style. And he seems to now be adapting. But considering what Emery's done at Aston Villa, you know,
Hmm.
how excited should we be now that it seems to be going in the right direction?
I think you should be excited because sometimes it can work straight away, which
Yeah,
it works straight away for us, or it may take a little bit of time because this is the thing now, because we've social media, a lot of football managers don't get time anymore. It's
mm,
almost like we expect everything like click of a finger.
yeah,
Where sometimes just have a bit of patience. Like it's not going to work straight away because you have to remember, and with all due respect, the quality of the Bournemouth players isn't probably as good as teams in the top half.
yeah,
With
completely.
all due respect, and don't get me wrong, I like Bournemouth as a football club, but sometimes you have to be realistic.
Yes,
But now you are starting to string a few results, and this is probably now a big test for you. That right, this is Aston Villa, and don't get me wrong, our away form hasn't been great, but it's now starting to pick up after picking up a win there against Tottenham, Chelsea. So I think you've every reason to be excited because then if the January transfer window comes and he gets two or three that potentially gives your team a lift,
yeah,
sometimes it could just be one. Like look what happened to Moreno when he came to Aston Villa. It completely changed the way we play, and I think you should be very excited, Craig, because it just may just take that little bit of time, and it's starting to come to pieces. The pieces are starting to come together,
yeah,
and so therefore be excited, like but also be patient. Like don't get caught up in the moment. I was trying not to get caught up in the moment last season,
yeah.
so this is I'm probably not the best person to talk to in that sense. But at the same time, just have a little bit of patience. Have patience with your manager because if you do, it'll pay off.
Do you know what? Actually, I'm probably the worst person as well because I probably was the least patient out of every Bournemouth fan out there because I was thinking the thing was Gary O'Neill, of course, was sacked, and I thought Gary's done a fantastic job last season. Really thought highly of him, and then he's been sacked for Andoni Iraola, and unlike I think there was probably a lot of Bournemouth fans who went, "Who, who is this?" When he turned up. Of course, I
Funny
knew
enough, I
quite a bit
never even
about,
heard of him either. I was like,
and
"Who is this fella?" After second Gary O'Neill, a manager that I felt was a bad decision, but obviously
yeah.
it's starting to pay off just a little bit now. But sorry, but continue on. I was like, "What the hell?"
No, to be honest, I thought as soon as I knew he was coming in, I thought, right, okay, I can see why they've done this. But the problem is that puts Andoni Iraola on a pedestal that makes me think, right, okay, I expect him to get us moving up the table. I don't expect us to be dicing with the relegation zone at all. I
Mm,
expected us to be mid-table, in around that sort of area. And then the game that really did it for me was the 3-0 thrashing against Everton, who, again, you could say are a team that have recently picked up as well.
mm,
Um, albeit, let's forget the points deduction that they've got. They've not been too bad this season. And I started to doubt myself and thought, right, this isn't the right man for the job. We should have kept with Gary O'Neill. But you're quite right in what you say. That patience is now paying off, and all we need to do now is keep this run going. And I think this could be a potential banana skin for Aston Villa because it is somebody who knows Unai Emery. Um, you know,
mm.
of course, Arteta is the only other manager, and we could look at with regards to Wolves, and coming up against Lopetegui. How did you do against Lopetegui with Unai Emery?
Yeah, which he was another Spanish manager at the time, and it was kind of you could see the frustration because at the same time as the derby, it lifts some players, so
Yeah,
Therefore, yeah, like two managers will always try to contradict each other, so it'll either go
Hmm.
one way or the other, or it'll be such a stalemate. So it can go either way.
Yeah.
So, but I say it was a frustrating time because the record against Lopetegui, Emery in La Liga,
Hmm.
wasn't great. Lopetegui gets the better of him, so sometimes you might be a great manager, but if someone else can get the better of you,
Mm.
it does come into that. But at the same time, the biggest bragging rights everyone has is where do you finish? What do you win?
Agree. Yeah, completely agree. And Unai Emery is doing a fantastic job at Aston Villa. I tell you what, we have to do this. We do it after every preview. You know what's coming up. But before we do, tell everybody, Martin, where they can find the Villa Park podcast.
You can find the Villa Park podcast on YouTube, which just type in Villa Park podcast and it will come up. You can also find us on Twitter, which is at Villa Park Podcast. And if you want to give myself a follow, I am at Marto Leonardo. So it's not Leon, it's Lenaordo.
Yeah.
So you can find me there and give the podcast a follow. We're on the road to 3,000 followers on YouTube, which is incredible considering we've only really started last year.
Do you know what? Whenever you say your the Twitter handle, I just think of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've got to say it, Martin. I had to say it.
Leonardo, do you? Oh,
Yeah,
Jesus.
exactly, mate.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he was the smartest one out of a lot of them, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit older than you, so I can remember, the Teenage Mutant Ninja
Oh, I
Turtles. It was
remember it
always on
too. I
the TV.
remember it too. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
It's coming back as well, isn't it? I tell you what,
Yeah.
let's let's go on to the predictions then. So, Martin, how do you think this game's going to go?
I'm going to say 2-1 to Aston Villa. I'm in complete agreement with the fact that you said it's a banana skin.
Yeah.
And then again, our away form isn't too great. Bournemouth are a very tough side at home, regardless whoever visits. So I think we could finally pip a win and say 2-1. I think Ollie Watkins and I'm gonna back John McGinn to get a goal.
Do you know what? I'm not going to bet against my own team.
And you're absolutely right not to.
Yeah, and with the upturn in form, yes, we beat a depleted Newcastle. We beat Sheffield United, who, let's be honest, are probably, and this is no disrespect to Sheffield United fans because I think they've even said it themselves. Are playing like a championship team in the Premier League,
Yeah,
and of course beat Burnley as well. So the teams we've beaten, I would say, it's nothing to write home about. But I think this might be the game that Iraola really puts his stamp on things and says, "Look, I'm here," and makes everybody wake up. I'm going to back him to beat Unai Emery, and I'm going to
okay.
go 2-1 myself. But of
So
course,
we're
I will
flipping
be
the coin. We're flipping the
yeah,
coin.
yeah, we're flipping the coin. Um, who's going to score? To be honest, I think we've got to go with the team that played up at Sheffield United. To be honest, it could have been 6 or 7.
Could have been
Yeah,
easily.
it was
It was one of them
on.
games where it was just sometimes it just doesn't go your way, but you still get the win.
Yeah, and I think it shows a how we've turned the corner that game, but secondly that we had so many chances. I think we
Yeah.
had about 23, 24 chances.
No, you had loads. She's
You
absolutely
know, it
destroyed them.
it was ridiculous. It could have been much, much more. And I think we stick with that team. Even though I was banging on and saying David Brooks should start, Iriola knows best. And I'm going to go for Marcus Tavernier, and I think Solanke will get one as well.
I
I
was
think
going to
Solanke.
say you're going to back Solanke because you have to. Because if you don't,
Yeah, I think Solanke will get one. But I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, and I think Ollie Watkins will, put one in the back of our net. But hey, I'll be happy with that. A good result. But I think it's going to be a tough game. Every game in
yeah,
the Premier League is tough.
yeah, it's not
Um,
no easy games anymore.
and I'll tell you what, Martin, I'll ask you this question. What are you going to be doing Sunday night if Aston Villa are top of the league?
God knows, I won't be going into work Monday if they're top of the league on Sunday.
Quite a few beers, I guess, won't it?
A few.
Well, thanks so much again for coming on, mate. I will be on the Villa Park podcast myself, so looking forward to that. And all the very, very best to Aston Villa for the rest of the season. Do you know what? I would absolutely love it. And let's be honest, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Man City will get a points deduction themselves.
Yeah, that thing's not starting until next year. I heard that trial.
Yeah, that's going to please the Everton fans, isn't it?
Uh, well, look, the Everton thing was going on for
Mm,
2 years.
yeah,
Like, don't get me wrong. A lot of fans are probably pointing out that, oh, it's so quick, but it really wasn't. It was 2 years. But
yeah,
in the same sense, though, they had one charge, one,
yeah.
and took 2 years. Now, think on the scale of things, how long is 115 charges going to take?
Crikey, a long, long time.
Like, as long as they're guilty of one, there's going to be point deductions.
I think what they really need to look at doing is giving them a points deduction for, say, for example, one of them, and then determine the others throughout the season. Um,
Problem is, with Man City lawyers, they appeal it and probably win. The FA just doesn't have a leg to stand on when it comes to the big six teams.
no, exactly. It's thing is if they get done for a similar thing to what Everton have, the Premier
And
League,
everything, there won't be any punishment. So it just
yeah,
goes to show, if your team of lawyers is absolutely incredible, you get away with a lot.
yeah,
It's just that
ex-
simple. It doesn't matter who you are.
exactly. But fingers crossed for you, mate. It would be incredible to see Aston Villa win the league. It would be. It would be. A
Don't
long
get
way
don't get
off.
my hopes up, please, Craig. Craig, please don't get my hopes up. I'm pessimistic. Remember, game by game.
Game by game. Yeah.
I'm focusing on this on Sunday. Then I'll focus on City. Then I'll focus on Arsenal. Then I'll focus on Mostar. Then I'll focus on Sheffield United. Then no, sorry, Brentford. Then Sheffield United. Then United, and then Burnley. That's it. I am
Yeah.
not going to Christmas or to the end of the season, game by game.
I thought I was changing thought I was changing everything for you, Martin, and thought, oh yeah, give you some optimism.
There's nothing you can do to sway me until the final day or whatever's confirmed where we are. Then I'll talk.
And then there'll be a lot of drinking.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Martin, pleasure as always, and no doubt we're going to catch up at some point during the season as well.
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. And thank you everybody for joining us on this show. Remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Do also check out all of our recent videos, of course, Cherry Abroad, and you can watch my adventure to the Yas Marina racetrack as well, of course, which is the home of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which happened last week as well. Also, do check out all of our interviews as well. They're all on there. Aston Villa fans, you might be interested to know Sean Teal has been on this show. So go and have a watch of that as well. But until the next one, up the cherries. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us.